KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all.
All right, folks, I'm back with them, and it's a brand new day, and it's a brand new play. Got millions of Americans are suffering financially due to the coronavirus pandemic, but Black and Latino women are experiencing job loss at higher levels than their white counterparts. For some women of color, unemployment has already struck more than once during the crisis. Many are struggling to find work in an increasingly tough economy. Isabel Treviso, a 22-year Cuban-American recent college graduate living in Miami, has been laid off twice. She lost her job as an account manager at a merchant services provider back in March. She quickly found new work as an agent at an employment center, only to almost immediately be made redundant. It's been very difficult. She stated she never imagined that at age 22 she'd be laid off work, applying for unemployment, and currently relying on the little savings she had to get by. She stated she's worried that when the lease on her apartment is up this September, it will be challenging to find a new place to live without a steady job. Like many women across the country, she faces additional stress of job hunting while looking after sick family members. And her father immunocompressed when her grandmother contracted COVID-19. The burden of caregiving fell on her. I'd go to help my grandmother, but I couldn't really devote all my time there, she stated, who also contracted the coronavirus, explained, I'm torn between having to look for work and take care of myself. In Florida, her home state is experiencing some of the worst COVID-19 spikes in the country, with daily record numbers and last month and IC unit bed shortages making headlines. Over 9,000 new cases were registered on Friday alone, and more than 7,000 Floridians have died. Meanwhile, threats of a second lockdown are putting extra pressure on businesses and depressing the job market further. It all adds up to a package of financial uncertainty. No one is more uncertain than women of color, who are disadvantaged during the current crisis on several fronts. They have been historically more likely to be left out of the financial recovery than white women, and systematic racism creates more negative health outcomes. Black and Latino women also tend to disproportionately hold jobs that were deemed essential this spring, like hospital workers and grocery store checkout clerks, thus putting many of them on the front lines of the COVID-19 response. And economists at the University of Massachusetts Boston recently explained to Global Citizen others were employed in hard-hit sectors like hospitality and reality, which have seen massive layoffs. Further, through the Bureau of Labor Statistics unemployment data looks bad for all Americans. The situation for women of color is particularly bleak. The jobless rate for black women aged 20 and over is 1/4 higher than the national average of all Americans in that same age group. And for Latino women, it's a rate just under 50% higher. It looks like things will get worse before they get better. The U.S. has experienced unprecedented levels of financial turmoil since the start of the coronavirus, thanks to the D.C. dunce, suffering its worst period ever in the second quarter of 2020, and that gross domestic product falling a historic 32.9%. And those are new figures that just came out this past Thursday. We're at depression era growth for GDP. That's gross domestic product. The pandemic has exacerbated existing inequalities in the U.S. labor market. Even when the U.S. was celebrating record high job numbers before the virus took hold, black and Latino people were lagging behind their white counterparts. At the start of 2020, the unemployment rate for black workers was more than double that of white workers. And Jasmine Kamau, 26, explained that as a young black woman, she's doubly concerned about navigating unemployment. She was laid off March 19th, just as the pandemic set in, and she lives in New York, which became the epicenter of the U.S. coronavirus in April. And we never prepared for this. Kamau, who worked in events management, not knowing what the future looks like or even where to go right now, is very stressful. Kamau, who had never experienced joblessness before, said the additional $600 a month federal government unemployment benefit, which expired Friday, as not been renegotiated by Congress, was helping offset her bills at the high cost of living in New York. Without it, she's worried she'll be reliant on the state unemployment benefit, which has been notoriously delayed during the pandemic. She said it took her 5 weeks to get her state unemployment check when she first applied 3 months ago. And she said she doesn't want to be paid to stay at home. She's been working. I've been working since she was 15 years old, and I don't know what it's like to sit at home all day, she explained. She added that she had intended to return to school in the new year, but the coronavirus has thrown her future plans into flux. And Michelle Holder, an assistant professor of economics at John Jay College in criminal justice, argued that it's imperative that Congress step up and to come to a bipartisan solution to stem the financial bleeding that men and women in this country are facing. Republicans have been very good at advancing the narrative of somehow $600 a week is a luxury, which is not for most working families. With phase 3 trials for a possible vaccine beginning this week, Holder argued that Congress should feel confident that this pandemic the end is not in sight. And so, you know, it said, both women said it's scary and nerve-wracking not knowing where to go, and they don't know how to move forward. And the country does not help them now, may determine on how a generation of black and Latino women succeed in the future. And it's really a crazy situation out there, I'm telling you, man. Real crazy. And so I'll throw this little small story in here right quick. Well, this story here, and you know, I really okay. This woman allegedly stole $500,000 from her church to pay for a wedding. Wow. And Tasha DeJoseph, a volunteer secretary for a New Jersey church, is facing embezzlement charges after she allegedly stole hundreds of thousands of dollars and used money for her personal expenses, including her wedding. The 43-year-old woman, who was responsible for overseeing finances at a local church, reportedly embezzled $561,000 and used it to pay her car loans, rent, credit card expenses, cable bill, phone bills, and to make hundreds of online purchases. She also used some funds to pay for her wedding venue. The church's board of trustees alerted the authorities in June when they suspected the theft. An investigation ensued and found that Smith DeJoseph had been stealing money from the church for 5 years, and it was discovered that she made purchases of more than $266,000 through PayPal and more than $22,000 on Amazon. To cover up her wrongdoings, she apparently fabricated monthly statements and even issued payroll and supply reimbursement checks to herself. She also did not file income tax returns and filed a fraudulent return in 2017. Even more, DeJoseph left the congregation with a negative balance on their accounts approximately 510 times over a 7-year period, according to the investigation. And people put their hard-earned money in the church and really expected for it to be taken care of, and it's very hurtful for the entire congregation, and they've been going through it for several months now, and so what else can they say about it? It's devastating. And so right now she's charged with multiple crimes, including theft by deception, computer criminal activity, and failure to pay income tax. And she was arrested, and a search warrant was served at her home. And that's that story. And then here's another story this story here, man, is really heartbreaking. And this is a woman charged with murder after illegal plastic surgery procedure kills a patient. And Keyshawn Bruce, a 31-year-old woman from Louisiana, has been arrested and charged with manslaughter 4 years after Juliet Capps, who was then 42 years old, died of complications allegedly caused by the illegal butt injections that Bruce administered. In October 2015, Caps agreed to meet Bruce at a hotel in Kenner, Louisiana to perform a buttocks enlargement procedure on her. After receiving the injection, Caps almost immediately began experiencing severe pain. Caps was taken to the hospital, but she never recovered. She suffered from extreme pain for 7 months until she died in May 15th of 2016. The cause of her death was found to be an infection from the necrotizing fasciitis, also known as the flesh-eating bacteria, caused by a toxic injection. According to investigators, Bruce has no license or medical expertise to perform the procedures that she was advising online. Also, the injections she used were allegedly commercially available silicone that she purchased from a hardware store, and not medical grade silicone. Bruce was identified as a suspect early on in the case, but it took additional time to prove her role in Cap's death. Police say there is an ongoing investigation in connection to the case. Bruce is accused of performing similar procedures to other people, including one who suffered complications. Police also are urging anyone who has information about Bruce or the procedures she was accused of doing to come forward, and she's currently being held at a $200,000 bond. I mean, vanity, man. Vanity will get you killed. You over there trying to get some butt injections, trying to look like Nicki Minaj and all of them. That it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So this vanity cost this lady her life, man. Just like she got injected with some silicone, the kind of stuff you use in your bathroom to seal cracks. And she's no longer here, but they did arrest and a lady that's allegedly charged with the crime.
It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News.